This story takes us to the very edge of the Nazi regime's collapse, a final, desperate act of theft and technological madness. A mission so classified it was wiped clean from both German and Allied records. Convoy Polar Brief, Convoy Polar Letter. The official story, manufactured and released decades later, was that three small German freighters carrying coal and dwindling supply for the garrison in Narvik were sunk by a sudden British air raid in the spring of 1945. But the reality, buried under 80 years of cold North Sea mud off the Norwegian coast, is far darker, involving a fortune in stolen gold, a terrifying experimental weapon, and mysterious disappearance of a cutting-edge British destroyer sent on a silent assassination mission. This ghost convoy was not a supply run. It was the final, critical attempt to smuggle the financial and technological seed of a potential Fourth Reich out of Europe. Dive with us into the lethal embrace of the deep, where the truth lies guarded by the ghostly wreckage of ships that were never supposed to be mentioned again, a vast sunken repository of secrets that could rewrite the final months of the war. The trail of the Polar Brief began not at sea, but in the chaotic bank vaults of Berlin and Budapest. As the Soviet armies closed in during late 1944 and early 1945, Hitler's inner circle, those obsessed not just with victory, but with survival and continuation, began the desperate movement of national and looted treasures. Operation Rheingold saw massive quantities of gold, priceless art, and foreign currency consolidated and shifted, much of it routed through Scandinavia, deemed the safest exit point. We meticulously cross-referenced redacted interrogation reports from captured Reichsbank officials and found anomalies concerning a specific shipment, designated Special Cargo B-47, which far exceeded the value of typical supplies and was guarded by an elite, dedicated detachment of Waffen-SS troops, a detail unheard of for a minor coastal convoy. B-47 was loaded onto three small but fast freighters, Nordwind, Eisvogel, and Stahlhers, in Kiel, and sailed north to Bergen, where a detachment of the Kriegsmarine's most advanced destroyers was supposed to take over the escort. The mission was placed directly under the command of Admiral Donitz's Special Projects Unit, bypassing the usual naval bureaucracy. The urgency and secrecy surrounding Polar Brief, evidenced by these highly fragmented documents, suggested its cargo was not merely financial, but existential, a crucial piece of the puzzle that the Nazi leadership believed could guarantee their future influence. This cargo was the true target, the reason this small convoy became one of the most violent and silent battlegrounds of the late war. The Allies were, of course, aware of the Nazis' frantic attempts to move assets. But a separate, far more alarming piece of intelligence reached the Admiralty's desk in London. The Polar Brief convoy was also carrying the final, assembled components for a new torpedo guidance system, codenamed Project Wotan. Unlike the conventional V-weapons, Project Wotan was a radical electromagnetic homing system designed to make any convoy defense obsolete, essentially allowing U-boats to fire and forget. The intelligence was so potent and the threat so immediate that the Royal Navy immediately canceled all other operational priorities in the Norwegian sector and launched a preemptive, highly classified intercept mission, Operation Snowfall. The goal was not capture, but complete obliteration. The ship chosen for this critical task was the newly commissioned, heavily armed destroyer, HMS Valorous. Valorous was equipped with the latest radar and anti-submarine technology, making it perfectly suited for a surgical strike. The key detail, however, is that while the Polar Brief convoy went silent on April 12, 1945, the HMS Valorous also vanished entirely a day later, without sending a single signal, without leaving any debris field, or generating any operational report. The official post-war explanation was a quiet scuttling due to battle damage in a separate area, an explanation that now seems completely fabricated. The simultaneous, silent disappearance of both hunter and hunted suggested a confrontation of unprecedented violence and secrecy, an event deemed so sensitive that both the German and British high commands collaborated, perhaps inadvertently, on burying the truth. Our search focused on the area off the Lofoten Islands, where the most compelling sonar anomalies were logged. The seabed here is a complex landscape of deep trenches and sudden peaks. Our remote surveys quickly identified the dispersed wrecks of the 3 German freighters, torn apart by catastrophic explosions and fire. But lying nearby, deep in a massive, mud-filled crater, was the telltale signature of a 4th vessel, far larger and unmistakably military, the remains of the HMS Valorous. The sheer violence of the damage to the British destroyer was astonishing. It wasn't simply sunk, it was vaporized. The damage profile suggested multiple, massive internal explosions, something far beyond the capability of the small escort ships of the German convoy. It appeared to have been the victim of the very weapon it was sent to destroy. It's highly probable that Valorous successfully engaged the convoy, but in the final moments of the battle, the German escorts sacrificed themselves, activating the Wotan prototype, or the Special Cargo B-47 itself, turning the entire area into a massive kill zone. The wrecks were so close that they almost overlapped, a cold, silent graveyard of both ships and secrets. The true extent of the horror, however, lay within the wreckage of the freighter Stahlhers, the designated carrier of the Special Cargo B-47, which held the definitive evidence of the convoy's true mission. Navigating the fragmented hull of Stahlhers was like crawling through a labyrinth of twisted steel and death. The interior was saturated with the dark, thick North Sea mud. Our ROVs had to meticulously clear years of sediment, but the reward was immediate and shocking. Inside what was once the heavily reinforced cargo hold, we found the centerpiece of the entire mystery. A colossal cylindrical safe, a steel strongbox built not for routine transport, but for protecting something of immense value from attack. The strongbox itself was ruptured, not by external explosion, but by internal force, possibly caused by the surrounding implosion when the freighter sank. As our lights probed the dark interior of the breached safe, the unmistakable dull gleam of metal emerged from the sediment. Gold bars, hundreds of them, mixed with the fine mud and corrosion. This confirmed the financial aspect of the Ghost Convoy, the desperate flight of the Reich's final assets. But the proximity of this treasure to the destroyed HMS Valorous and the wreckage of Stahlhers only deepened the mystery. Why sacrifice gold that could finance years of resistance for a simple supply run? The answer lay with the tragic sentinel found near the strongbox, the figure frozen in time. Leaning against the breached strongbox, as if guarding it in his final moments, was the skeletal figure of a German soldier, his uniform mostly disintegrated, but his Kriegsmarine helmet and rank insignia clear. This was the SS Guard detachment mentioned in the archived reports. Crucially, in his remaining skeletal hand, we found a small, corroded metallic plate, likely torn from the cargo itself. The plate bore a partial stamp, B-47. Wotan. This was the physical, undeniable link. The gold was B-47, and B-47 was tied directly to Project Wotan. The convoy was carrying not just the financial assets, but the physical components of the weapon itself. The soldier was guarding the weapon and the gold. The image was a devastating tableau. The stolen wealth and the deadly technology frozen together in the final, silent confrontation with the HMS Valorous. This convoy, and the Allied destroyer sent to stop it, were both victims of a historical eraser. The official accounts ensured that no one would search for the gold, nor the terrifying weapon prototype. But the most dangerous part of the Special Cargo B-47 was not the gold or the torpedo components, but a separate small, reinforced capsule found near the stern of the freighter, a capsule designed not to be sunk, but to survive the sinking. The evidence was overwhelming. Convoy Polar Brief was a secret operation carrying the Reich's financial lifeline and the lethal technology of Project Wotan. The presence of the gold and the Wotan plate next to the skeletal Kriegsmarine Guard confirmed that the Stahlhers was the central piece of this technological and financial smuggling attempt. But the biggest revelation was still ahead: the silent confrontation with HMS Valorous. Our detailed survey of the British destroyer's wreckage revealed a ship that had been fundamentally destroyed not by conventional torpedoes, but by a massive, instantaneous shockwave. The hull integrity was breached simultaneously in multiple places, consistent with a powerful, localized energy release, pointing directly back to the very weapon prototype it was meant to eliminate. It's highly probable that in the final, desperate moments of the battle, as the Valorous closed in to sink the convoy, one of the German escorts, or the Stahlhorst itself, was deliberately detonated, turning the Wotan components and perhaps other volatile materials into an apocalyptic self-destruct mechanism, successfully eliminating the threat and, simultaneously, burying the secret forever. This was not a military engagement. It was a scorched earth policy at sea. The key to understanding the Stahlhorst's final moments was a small, heavily reinforced steel capsule found near the freighter's stern, separate from the main cargo hold. Unlike the cylindrical strongbox for the Gold, this capsule was spherical, designed to withstand extreme pressure and heat. It was tethered to the wreck by a heavy cable, indicating it was intended to be easily retrievable or perhaps deployed. The capsule was sealed with a complex 4-digit combination lock, too intricate to be broken by a simple charge. This capsule was clearly the most valuable part of Special Cargo B-47, a contingency plan for failure. Using specialized acoustic imaging, we managed to capture high-resolution X-rays of the capsule's interior. The image was blurred, but distinct shapes emerged. Multiple glass vials and several spools of magnetic tape, highly valuable in the 1940s. The glass vials suggested biological or chemical agents, but the presence of the tape spools pointed to something even more dangerous: encrypted data and code. This was the technological blueprint, the unwritten component of the Wotan system, or perhaps an even darker experiment, protected in a container designed to survive even the detonation of the surrounding vessel. The Allies' official cover story for the loss of HMS Valorous was a masterful piece of historical deception, designed to eliminate any reason to search the area. They claimed the destroyer was sunk in the Skagerrak by a U-boat in May 1945, a month after the true sinking. This deliberate misdirection ensured that no post-war salvage operations or investigations would ever target the Lofoten Islands, leaving the Gold, the Wotan prototype components, and a secret capsule to the crushing silence of the deep. This level of coordinated deception could only have been executed at the highest levels of both the Admiralty and a collaborating German faction, likely the same shadow group responsible for the Base 211 cover-up. The goal was to secure peace by securing silence, preventing the Wotan technology or the contents of the capsule from falling into Soviet hands, or worse, back into the hands of escaping Nazis. The simultaneous loss of the Nazi convoy and the Allied destroyer created a perfect historical vacuum, a clean slate where the truth about the most dangerous weapons program could simply be declared lost at sea. That we focused our efforts on the retrieval of the spherical capsule, the final piece of the polar brief puzzle. Using a highly corrosive chemical bath, the ROV's manipulator arm slowly dissolved the locking mechanism, a tense, agonizing operation under extreme pressure. Finally, the hatch gave way, revealing a cold, preserved interior. The spools of magnetic tape were intact, carefully sealed inside smaller, lead-line containers. But the most important object was a single, heavy metallic disc, roughly the size of a dinner plate, engraved with complex circuitry patterns and a detailed, stylized image of a thunderbolt, Wotan symbol. This was the core component of the Wotan guidance system, the electromagnetic homing brain that allowed the torpedoes to track their targets without using conventional sonar. The discovery was historically monumental, confirming the existence and sophistication of the late-war German weapon program. But beside the technical components, tucked into a slim pocket, was a piece of parchment that revealed the true, chilling intent behind the entire convoy. The parchment was a signed and sealed letter from the chief engineer of Project Wotan, addressed to Admiral Donat's successor in Argentina. It was dated April 1945, just days before the convoy sailed. The letter confirmed the contents. The financial means and the technical blueprints for the immediate continuation of Votan are secured. But it went further, detailing plans for establishing an offshore testing facility in the South Atlantic, where the technology, combined with resources from the stolen gold, could be rapidly perfected. The letter outlined the critical phase of the Fourth Reich project, clearly stating that the goal was not to rebuild Germany, but to develop a weapon that would force a hostile surrender on the Allied powers within a decade. This convoy was not an escape. It was the delivery of a planned future war. The capsule contained the blueprints and the means to initiate a new technological Cold War from the safety of South America. The self-destruction of the convoy, therefore, was likely triggered by the crew when they realized the HMS Valorous was about to compromise this future, sacrificing the gold to save the secret. We had found the last, most dangerous will and testament of the Third Reich, a plot that extended years beyond the fall of Berlin. The discovery of the Votan core and the South Atlantic blueprint fundamentally alters the timeline of the post-war world. It proves that the Allied mission, Operation Snowfall, was exponentially more important and desperate than anyone knew, and that the sacrifice of the HMS Valorous and its entire crew was an act of global salvation, eliminating the technical foundation for a future war. The final pieces of the mystery, however, return to the men who died guarding this secret. Our ROV captured a final, poignant image inside the Stahlherr's fragmented strongbox. Among the scattered gold bars and debris was a small, tarnished silver ring engraved with the date 1943 and the initials EH. This small, personal relic of the skeletal guard EH is a cold reminder that history is not just about gold and weapons, but about the lives swallowed by the ocean silence. We found the truth about the gold, the ghost weapon, and the erased Allied destroyer. But the terrifying blueprints of the Fourth Reich project, salvaged from the deep, remain a chilling testament to the secrets still resting beneath the waves. The recovered documents from the spherical capsule, the core component of Project Votan, and the chilling letter outlining the critical phase of the Fourth Reich project fundamentally changed our understanding of the war's finale. The Convoy polar brief was not merely a sunken asset, but a time capsule of a planned global resurgence, a testament to the fact that for some factions of the Nazi hierarchy, the surrender of 1945 was just a temporary strategic withdrawal. The final part of our investigation focuses not on the German side, but on the desperate, forgotten Allied mission, Operation Snowfall, and the fate of HMS Valorous. Why did the British Admiralty maintain a completely fabricated story about the destroyer's loss? And what other secret lay within the wreckage of the Valorous that they needed to keep silent for 80 years? The answer lies in the ship's own experimental technology that was never meant to be known to the world. That we returned to the deep trench where the remains of HMS Valorous lay, a chaotic, vast debris field consistent with a ship torn apart by an instantaneous internal explosion, likely triggered by the Votan components on the Stahlherrs. However, amidst the twisted steel plating, our ROV detected a specific, geometrically regular anomaly in the Valorous stern section, an area where the ship's experimental anti-submarine warfare (SW) systems were housed. This section was specifically designed to be compartmentalized, minimizing damage from conventional torpedo strikes. The anomaly was a heavy, cube-shaped structure, slightly separated from the rest of the hull. It was identified as the housing for the Project Trident sonar array, a highly advanced, low-frequency acoustic weapon designed to disorient and potentially rupture the hulls of submerged U-boats without using explosives. Trident was the UK's countermove to the German Type XXI U-boat, an acoustic shield, and like Votan, it was deemed too critical and dangerous to be publicly acknowledged. The damage to the Trident housing suggested that the system was active and perhaps even firing at the moment of the catastrophe. The massive counter-explosion from the Votan cargo on the Stahlherrs not only destroyed the German freighters, but also slammed a debilitating shockwave directly back into the Valorous advanced system. The force was so immense that it not only destroyed the Trident array, but caused a sympathetic detonation of the destroyer's own depth charges and secondary ammunition stored nearby. The Valorous was killed by the blowback of the secret weapon it was deploying against the enemy's secret weapon. This provided the true explanation for the ship's total and simultaneous disintegration, a narrative far too complex and damaging to the UK's technological superiority to ever be released. They couldn't admit their top-secret acoustic weapon failed catastrophically in a clash with a hidden enemy prototype. Inside the wreckage of the Trident housing, our ROV found the final piece of human evidence from Operation Snowfall. Not a full skeletal figure, but a small, heavy piece of brass, a dog tag. The name was crisp, preserved by the corrosion. LTC. R. Hamilton, RN. Lieutenant Hamilton was the chief ASW officer aboard Valorous, the man responsible for the Trident system. Next to the tag was a fragmented, heavily corroded logbook, its pages fused together by time and pressure. Through careful chemical separation and high-resolution scanning, we managed to decipher the final handwritten entry, dated April 13, 1945. Votan confirmed. Firing Trident now. They're attempting self-scuttle. We have to stop the tech. God help us. This entry confirms that the Valorous succeeded in identifying the Votan threat and used the powerful, experimental Trident system to neutralize the convoy. The subsequent destruction was a mutual annihilation of two top-tier secret weapons. Lieutenant Hamilton's final words were a testament to the sacrifice. The mission was not about winning the battle, but preventing the technology from falling into the wrong hands. The existence of the Votan Gold, the sealed blueprints for the Fourth Reich, the Votan Weapon Core, and the catastrophic loss of the top-secret HMS Valorous, all erased from the record and lined together in the cold Norwegian deep, paints a definitive picture of the war's final shadow conflict. This wasn't the end of the war. It was the start of the Cold War's most dangerous secret. Both sides agreed, perhaps through a mutual interest and stability, that some secrets are best left to the ocean floor. The gold remained to finance nothing. The blueprints remained to inspire no one. The Votan Core remained in the dark, and the heroic sacrifice of the Valorous crew and Lieutenant Hamilton, who died preventing a future war, was deliberately buried. The silence of the deep became the world's shield. We have lifted the polar brief from the ocean floor, revealing a forbidden history where the distinction between victory and survival was measured in kilograms of gold and gigabytes of magnetic tape. Zero, what do you think? Accident or a mission deliberately erased and left on the ocean floor?